Moxie.
Diet.
No calories?
You guys want to get one of these?
This is the first time I've
It's all set. All right.
had a Moxie, and I don't drink soda anymore. I used to like it. I haven't had that in probably 2 or 3 years. But I was at the fair, working at the museum today.
Fair.
All right.
Oh, you
Yeah.
already started?
Yeah.
All right, so
It's
we'll
halfway through.
call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Waldeboro Recreation Committee. It is August 25th, and what?
Yeah, go ahead.
It is August. It is August 25th,
I was
and
looking at the minutes.
we're just gonna go through the agenda. I'll start with see if anybody has any citizen comments they need to would like to share.
I met with a group last week, a group of 3 different pickleballers. They'd all been to my program in the past. One of them was a regular, the other 2 came once or twice, and that was it. And they were talking a lot about outdoor pickleball. They have a big group that plays in Jefferson. They have people travel from Port Clyde, St. George, New Harbor, Waldeboro, Friendship, all over. They played all winter in Jefferson. As long as it was 17 degrees or higher, they were playing, and they'd bring their own shovels and shovel off the court. But they were looking for something a little closer, and we're kind of hoping we might do something with 80 Gray. They said that, while the majority of that court's unusable, they think they found a portion of it that they might be able to use. So I've been in talks with Julie about getting rid of some of the safety concerns up there, so maybe they can use it. But that's also why Max is gonna be here tonight to talk about the rest of 80 Gray and kind of where we wanna take that property, what do we wanna do with the tennis courts. We have to do something, but that's where that kind of stemmed from. But that was the only citizen comments I had. They brought it to me.
Quick question, what about the old lab area? Is that concrete still
It is.
viable, or could you?
I don't know how wide it is.
I'm trying to remember how wide that room was. It's gotta be
Yeah,
24, I'm guessing.
yeah. I can't remember.
And
I can't remember. exactly how
Lengthwise,
far.
it's probably 60.
Yeah, I know there's some like, they're dead wires, but they had wires that came up through the ground that they just chopped off, and they're dead wires, but they're uncapped. You can see them.
Oh, really?
There's some holes
Could
in
be.
it.
Oh. Well, could be
but-
cut and plugged.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they're cut.
Yeah.
They're cut. It might be a
Just a
week, but-
thought,
Yeah, I've
just
thought
a-
about it too. I just haven't measured it. The length, it's plenty long enough. It's just the width.
Yeah,
What I wonder about.
and I'm just trying to, I'm thinking of 40 years ago.
Yeah, sure. So, but they brought that to me, so I kind of figured that qualified as citizens' comments.
Yeah, sure.
So the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from June 2nd, 2021. And I know, I think Kelly did these and sent them out.
Motion
All right.
to approve?
Second. All in favor? Any discussion? Any changes? All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Great. With that, we'll move to the Recreation Director's Report.
Alright, so it's been a couple months since we met. So at last time we met, Summer Rec was just we were just planning, my numbers were kind of down then, but it actually picked up. We averaged right around 20 kids per day with a total of 30 kids participating in the program. That was good to see. It wasn't what I'd hoped when I went to a full day program. I was hoping for 45 kids and a full day every day. I didn't get the staff to cover that many, so I was gonna have to cap it around 30 kids anyways. And that's, we kind of built to that. The first couple weeks, we were 10, 12 kids. But the last 5 weeks, we were, 18 to 23, 4 every day. So it was good to see, a lot better than the 9 to 1 program we ran in the past, where we averaged 10 to 15. So it really, I was happy. It was a good stepping stone. I'm hoping I get the staff and the kids next year to max it out, 45 kids every day, and we did a lot of fun things. When I did get the kids, I thought, I wasn't getting the program fees in to kind of pay for some of this stuff. It was do I keep Funtown, do I keep Splashtown, or do I get some more local trips? And I just kind of decided to invest in it and send the kids off, and I put the two leaders, I gave them access to our Facebook page, and they were putting Facebook pictures up every day
Oh, good.
of the kids doing stuff. So I'm hoping the word gets out and
Yeah.
we're full next
Yeah.
year.
I thought the pictures were great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
They did a
Summer good.
They did a fantastic job with it. It looked like fun.
It looked like fun.
Wish I could have been there more. Still working on enhanced fitness with the YMCA. I'm hoping to meet with Lauren from the Y and Troy from the Baptist Church and myself next week to kind of see if we can use that space and nail down a time so we can partner with the Y and offer a enhanced fitness program. I know they're currently looking for an instructor, so it might take a little, we were hoping to start in September, it might be a little later in the year, I'm not sure. But that's something that would be for seniors, and it's like a, stretching, small movement, ankle weights kind of exercise class. And it's through they have a program, it's a grant funded through them, and it has to meet certain criteria, I can't remember what but it's one of their kind of core programs. But they
Okay.
were hoping to offer it in Waldeboro, and I'm trying to help them with that.
How many days are they hoping to do that?
For the grant, they have to offer it 3 days a week for an hour. So that, I don't know if the church has that much space to give us, but if not, we'll try to find another place, but we're gonna meet with them first. Pickleball's coming back September 7th. We're gonna go right back to Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9 to 11. I sent a email out to all the email addresses I still had from the last time we ran the program, and I got 3 or 4 people that responded right away and said, awesome,
Yeah.
can't wait to see you there.
There is a lot of excitement about it.
Yeah, so hoping to get that back going. Co-ed softball kicked off a few weeks ago, and we're up to 15 teams this year. That's
Wow.
the most we've had since I've been here.
Wow.
Looking back through the records, Kyle might have had 1 year where it was 16. I can't remember, but it's right up there with the most we've ever had. And that's the most in the Mid-Coast. I think Rockland Men's League had 7 this year, 6 or 7, and I think Camden Co-ed's right around 13, 14. So we're
That's good.
going
Great.
going
Very
well.
good.
Yeah.
What kind of fees are?
So they pay $30 a player,
Oh, wow.
and I provide. The men have to use our league issued wood bats. So that those I can try to get 1 to 2 bats per team, depending on, some of the older teams have a bat bag full of bats that I've given them over the years. They don't break them, and then some teams get 2 new ones every year, and they never get them back. So we issue every team bats, and every team gets a box of game balls. So it's like a little over $1,500
Oh, sure.
to
Yeah, it's
supply.
not cheap.
So I upped it to $30 a player. I think a couple years ago. The bats, they stopped making the cheapest bats that I bought, and I had to go up 1 model. So I had to up the price a little bit to kind of offset. But
Sure.
it's not bad. So some of the teams come in right with 12 players, the minimum, so they pay $360, and some of them have 15 players and they're $450, and
Yeah.
I offered it to them a couple of years ago, said, do you want to stick with this $30 a player thing, or do you just want to go flat fee, $400 per team? And they said, keep it at $30 a player, so
It's all right.
works out for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Youth soccer registrations are underway. That's going to begin the second week of September. We're hoping to get back. Last year we kind of had a shortened, modified season where we just did stuff in-house. I met with the Mid-Coast board, and we're on pace for the 3rd, 4th to play against Warren again. And 5th, 6th going to have a whole Mid-Coast league with St. George, Rockport, Rockland, Thomaston, Cushing,
Great.
Warren. So that will be good to get back going. And I'm waiting to hear back from the bus company about our senior citizen bus trip. I'm hoping to do that, get that back going this year. We usually do it the 2nd week of October, right after, I think it's Columbus Day. And I think we're looking at going to Bar Harbor this year. We haven't done that since I've been here, so
Okay.
I think we'll try that. But that's pretty much what's going on in rec right now.
If I remember right, wasn't there something that you were looking into regarding the state to get some kind of, not, I don't, license isn't the right word.
Yeah, so that was for summer rec.
Summer rec, yes.
So when I was taking registrations, my numbers were down pretty good early, and so I was worried, and I had a few people call asking if I took state vouchers.
Yes, okay.
And I didn't think, I thought because I wasn't a licensed daycare, so to speak, that I couldn't accept those. So I was looking into getting certified.
Mhm.
I've learned that I kind of can take some of them. I didn't. Nobody came back to me. I
Right.
didn't take any of them. I just have to kind of work for the money a little bit more. I have to reach out to the state and
Find out what,
and find
the
out
logistics
what
are.
I need to do. But
Yeah,
I don't
to qualify.
I don't necessarily need to be licensed.
Okay.
And if I do get licensed, it does put a lot of restrictions on me.
Yeah.
I think
So you-
some of my staff has a certain
You-
age requirement they have to meet, which we typically have a younger
you
staff.
you
So
may be better off just,
just
Yeah.
trying to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
typically the trend is, not that the state's, obviously the licensure process is important and it is pretty restrictive at times for some of the things. So it's really kind of weighing out the balances, but you have to maintain particular ratios. So
Yeah.
even on days like where staff may call out, or you may be one or two off, or the record keeping for any type of, voucher programs and stuff like that. So there's a different level.
Different level.
Different level of work to it,
Yeah.
but doesn't mean it's wrong, but it's just a matter of how comfort you feel, and you can make sure that you meet all those requirements in case they came and inspected you. But
well, maybe, walk before you run
right.
Yeah.
and see how that shakes out.
And I think in the next year or so, there's also some different bills in Congress that may have some more daycare provisions and
True.
have some more abilities. And then it's just a matter of how each state handles that program.
Right.
So that could be an advancement, especially for your numbers too, if something was subsidized like that. So the next item is item 5.1, community center update, and I guess I'll turn it over to you again.
Yeah. So not a lot has happened on the Lincoln Health front. Julie's been to a couple of their meetings, and they're pretty much still just talking about their portion of it. There hasn't been a lot of crosstalk from talking to Julie. The only other thing that's happened is we had a guy from the DEP come out and look at, and Max, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because you know more about it than I do, but they looked over the area behind the ball fields, and it was, we thought just the kind of that in-between section where it's the most swampy would be designated as wetlands, and it actually, the entire property, even where the ball fields was designated as a wetland or a wet area or something. So that might put up a little more red tape on building there.
But weren't we going to try to go up the hill more?
Yeah, everything we own up the hill is, they consider it a wetland.
Really?
Really?
So,
Yeah.
Max?
yeah. So the thing I'll add on to that is, we had a soil surveyor actually check the site, and when the soil surveyor gave us that information, we gave it to the person from the DEP, and they said, if they need to know if it's a significant wetland. That's something our soil surveyor didn't do. So that's something that Julie is quickly checking first. If not, we'll have the guy from the DEP come to the site and do an inspection of that site. If it is a significant wetland or whatever he called it, then, as Marcus said, it creates a bit more red tape and it's going to be a bit more difficult to do the project. If it's not, then the price is certainly a bit higher than we would anticipate, but we can at least do the project.
I guess the question is the review of the property, was it done during the month of July?
It
Or,
was done during it was during that dry period.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we were all like high-fiving and thinking, oh yeah, they're doing it during the one time where it hasn't been raining for like a month or two. But we had the person go up and they still saw it was a pretty wet area.
Right.
How big, I mean, oh, jeez.
So basically, Max, if I'm reading this right, you're saying they did kind of like a wetland delineation, and based on the soil sample, it really wasn't exactly what they were looking for, but if they do find that it's significant wetland, then you can't touch that period at all. If it's not significant, then you could make altercations, or you could find other wetland areas or in replace of, or something along those lines.
Correct. You can do some, depending on what they find,
Different mitigation.
it's about ratios and whatnot. So if it's not a significant wetland, then we should be able to do it, no problem. There might have to be a little more talks with DEP to make sure we don't interrupt certain areas. But if it's a significant wetland, then we start getting into ratios of preserving land or conserving other land. That causes a whole different thing. So
Right.
that's something we just have to wait for the DEP to get back to us about, which I'm going to try and set that up with my contact there, and Julie's going to talk with the soil surveyor and see why they didn't say anything about whether or not it's a significant wetland or not, because that's something we should have done from the beginning. But yeah, we're just still checking, really.
Yep, so you're just in the gathering information still.
Right.
But preliminary, it's not as great as we'd hoped, right? Probably fair to say?
There was a lot more hope a few months ago than there is now, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, I mean, when Julie first came to me with this and said, you know, that they designated all as wetlands, you know, just reading her body language, to me, it was like, oh, this project's dead in the water. But then the more information we got and talking with Max, it's, you know, like I said, it's depending on how it comes back, it's probably not gonna be dead, but it just probably has a little more red tape than we planned.
Yeah, I'm certainly the guy who will try and do CPR on any project, but that doesn't mean that the person's coming back.
Right.
What
Right.
kind of a time frame, Max, are you thinking of to find out?
I'm sorry?
What kind of a time frame are you looking at to find out?
I might be able to know by next month.
Yep.
I don't know though. That's something that I'm gonna probably talk with Julie about tomorrow to see if she's talked with the soil surveyor, see if they have any information. Because if they do, then we can save ourselves a DEP trip. If not, then it takes about maybe 2-3 weeks for the guy from DEP to come down and visit Waldoboro.
So
Because he's
the,
dealing with the whole state.
Yep.
So do you have any idea what's the threshold or criteria that they're looking at or not?
It's just the type of soil and the drainage.
Yeah.
So like the soil can well absorb all the surface water, then that's what we kind of want.
Right.
Or if it has a better sort of runoff system so that the water doesn't get pooled into one spot, that's what we really want. For the significant wetland, they're looking for places that are 20,000 square feet of, I think 20,000 square feet was the number he gave, of that type of wetland. So, you know, in looking at a map, if the soil is marked a certain kind for an area, and they go over and they confirm it's that type of soil, then there's a very good chance that that's going to be the soil that's for the entire area,
Yeah.
or at least the area that was originally marked.
Yep.
So we're kind of in a wait and see.
Wait, see, and have your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
so is it the EDP or is it the soil guy who is the ultimate
Well, DEP.
person?
DEP, but
DEP.
they need the test results from this soil
Okay.
or another test
Right.
Well,
to determine.
We could do either one. The soil surveyor is licensed to do this, so you know if they try and
Right.
sweep this rug and we get caught, the person's gonna be in a lot of trouble, so they wanna be honest about their review.
Sure.
And the person, DEP, you know, it's their job as well, so either one really would work in this situation.
But the soil surveyor is just testing the soil. They don't have the authority to tell us what we can and can't
Right,
do.
right.
Right,
That's the DEP.
that's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to find out the results, I guess.
I'm surprised they didn't put that in their report. You know what I mean, Max?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that was-
Why wouldn't they have, whoever the soil person is, why wouldn't they have put that in their report?
I don't know, and that's.
It seems
what
odd.
Yeah, and that's what Julie's asking them. Because that might have just been something they simply didn't include, or they might have just misinterpreted the scope of the work. So we're checking with them on that.
Yep, okay.
All right. Anything else on that community center update?
That's all I have.
Okay. So, Max, while we still get you here, the next item of business is something you reached out to me as well. The 80 Gray Park thoughts, and I guess I'll let you frame this off, or if Marcus wants to, but.
So, yeah, this was actually something I wanted to do for a while, and then with everything that happened this past year, it kind of was put on hold. But with the assumption that Volunteers of America is in fact going to complete their project, it's all on their timeline at this point. I want to at least move forward with looking at the remaining parcels of land and seeing what could be done for that area. Because I remember a year ago when the 80 Gray subcommittee was considering developing the whole area, there was certainly a lot of pushback. I think even from either this committee or just from Marcus, but that I know that that's a very important green area for a lot of people in this town. And I assume there's some hope for people, and I assume some people want to see a little bit more over there than what's there right now. I know the tennis courts are already the big piece that we could repair, as Marcus pointed out with the citizens' comments section. I don't know if there was interest for doing some other work there, whether it's Philbrook Ball Field having some types of repairs or changed in some way, or if there was like really anything to do it. I was initially thinking we could do a land water conservation fund, which is what the tennis courts initially had,
Correct.
to sort of redo that whole area and make some necessary repairs. That was something that Doug Beck from the Department of Agriculture was suggesting around the same time, a few months ago, I should say, because that's when I did the inspection with him. That's certainly an option we can take. If there's really not that many big ticket items we want done in that area, then we could certainly just look for some smaller, less hair-pulling grants to just fix up the tennis courts. And actually, that's the other part. Ironically, coincidentally, I had the guy from the Maine DEP at 80 Gray just a week ago to examine the wetland that's behind the tennis courts and all that area. Because I know there was some expressed concerns about the tennis courts being in a wetland, which it's not actually, it's a few feet away from it. But anyways, I had Dustin Dories, the person from the DEP, by the way. I had him come out, he inspected the area, and he said that the wetland isn't really that critical or anything. There's no endangered habitats or anything. So if we wanted to leave the tennis courts where they are, we can certainly do that. There's no issue with them. But I also had him check the site just north of the school, the undeveloped lot, to see if that would be a potential spot. So he went out and he, again, saw no issue with it going up to like the tree line or anything. We would only need to make sure that the tennis court would be 75 feet away from the stream that's near there, which it's more than 75 feet away. So if we wanted to relocate the courts, we could certainly do that and have them closer to the ball field. I guess what I wanted to know was just if, whether it's all of you personally or through some conversations you've had with people in town, if there's other types of ideas or how you would like to see that area sort of, I guess, done. Because if there's not that many people if there's not that much work that needs to be done, not that many projects to do in the area, I'd almost be fine just focusing on the courts and just getting that done. But if people wanted to do more with Philbrook Ball Field or try and improve like the parking or, I don't know, put in a playground or something, we can look into more stuff. But that's why I wanted to at least talk with everyone here first to see if there was any suggestions.
I guess I would just start by saying, I would like to see that whole parcel, improved and or altered to whatever designs that would be best utilized for both the department and for the community. I think it would be an odd opportunity to invest, or Volunteers of America to invest in beautifying that space that they've talked about, and then not, kind of capturing that momentum and fixing up Philbrook Field. I think that has a valid use for a baseball field if it was, a pretty solid investment into replacing some of the fences, the drainage. The tennis courts really are a liability to the town, in my opinion, and I think they should be chained up, but that's just my personal opinion. So I think that's long overdue. Is tennis still the most viable option, or is it turning that into a pickleball court, or could you move the tennis courts and make that more of a passive park area and move the tennis courts on the other side? I mean, those are the questions I would have, but I know through the outlet, that property is obviously through that grant. Would you have to like encompass the whole parcel to get the grant? And then would that take away the need to, I think get it appraised, the two different properties, so they kind of match when you move one property to the other? Or, that would be a question I'd have for, Mr. Beck. But that's my quick thoughts. I know it's used a lot. I think if you had better parking, if you had maybe a flat level grassy area that could be maybe a farmer's market in the summertime, and a small for like the 3-4 or K2 soccer, so you're not interrupting fall baseball or other uses, which we've kind of encountered in the past where we got to move goals and all that stuff. The other thing is there's kind of like a possibility for like an amphitheater / like small stage where you could do, summer music in the park, or music or movies or something like that, just based on the slope. So I guess that's my wish list. So I don't know who anybody wants to go after that, but
Let me just back up a minute. If the wetlands present a problem, where would the community center go?
That's a good question. Because
Would it be A.D. Gray? Would that be big enough left over there or not?
if you tore down the school and then took all the parcels,
Yeah.
that's 8 acres total, and then I'm just trying to think this through my head. The problem that I've seen with 80 Gray, with the community center, was going to be if people had an issue, people supposedly had an issue of traffic
Yeah.
when we're going to be housing, there's definitely going to be a lot more traffic for a community center. And I don't know how that, I know everyone wants a community center, and I know there was the intention of having it over there at one point, but if the thought is you don't want traffic up in that area, community center certainly not going to lessen that.
Right.
The other part of it is with its what makes 80 Gray itself unique is that it has the footprint, which if it's torn down, we have a year to reuse that footprint or else it's gone forever. I mean, you combine the parcels, that's fine. That can at least get rid of the side setback for the northern part. But if you're proposing that the community center go over at the 80 Gray site, it's gonna take a pretty big overhaul of that whole area.
No, I guess I'm just thinking out loud, what do we have left if the wetlands is a problem where we thought the community center medical campus gonna go, where's our next place?
Town owned, it's certainly a limited option, but, and I can't really answer a lot of that, but, I can't really answer a lot of those questions. I was here for more of the development of the field itself.
Yeah.
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 No, we respect that, Max. I mean, we're not trying to put you on the spot, so, I mean, obviously, let's not jump too far ahead till we know the definite, but, you know, obviously, I'm sure town staff's looking at different locations or different thoughts, and, you know,
Well,
there's a
then-
Sylvania property, there's different thing, you know, there's different outlets. I'm not saying that would be the most viable either, but.
There's properties around that the town doesn't currently own,
Right.
that maybe could be
Right.
options, so, but.
And that's just it. What made the rec complex so great at first was that it was undeveloped and it was town owned already.
Right,
But now, I mean, if we're looking at town owned parcels, it is very limited for what that is. And then, I mean, we could certainly always look at other areas as well. But it's certainly not gonna be the $2 million bond that I think people were saying I don't even remember what the November vote was last year. Was it 2 million or 4 million that people wanted to put into a community center?
Two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was non-binding, but yes.
yeah.
yeah, I understand that, but, yeah. It's certainly gonna be a lot.
So I guess getting back to the question about the 80 Gray parcel as far as the leftover portion that the Volunteers of America, assuming that their project goes forward,
Right.
would have left. That's kind of what you're looking for, right? Guidance?
Yeah.
Or
Right. And-
different implements that could be possibly in there. And I know I gave you a pretty good list, but does anybody
Yeah.
else have others, or?
So I've talked to Max about it a little bit. You know, like Troy's vision, I have my own vision for the property. It's pretty similar to what he mentioned, but, you know, fixing up the ball field, either leaving the courts where they are and moving the drainage pipes so that it doesn't heave again, or just moving the courts, you know, whichever one's easiest, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and then kind of some other stuff. What I talked to him about this week, you know, I have the same concerns with the land and water. You know, right now, that land and water property is just where the tennis courts are. So if we get a new grant through them to fix up, you know, the whole 7 acres that's left, do we have to keep that whole 7 acres usable in perpetuity, which, you know, isn't a bad thing, but with the tennis courts has turned to be kind of a pain in the neck for the town. You know, it's good, you know, we gotta keep rec up and going, it's just more hoops to jump through. Tennis courts have a lifespan and they outlived it. You know, maybe there was
Sure.
some neglect there at some point, but, you know, they've been around a long time.
Wasn't there an issue with the tennis courts about, seems like a couple of years ago, we talked about the tennis courts and the way we got the money originally, that they had to stay tennis courts
Yeah,
or
that's over,
something?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
so they don't have to stay tennis courts, but that piece of property has to stay
For public
for a
recreation.
public recreation, and they would have to approve it, the LWCF would have to approve what kind of recreation we do there. With the big push we've had for pickleball in town,
Yeah,
my priority would be to, you know, rebuild them either there or somewhere else, but put up, you know, 2 tennis courts, with the option to turn it into 4 pickleball or 2 pickleball, whatever, however they work it out, but it would definitely have pickleball lines on it, but I would still probably try to keep tennis on it as well. I was up there working yesterday and there was a guy just banging a tennis ball against the side of the building on the concrete, so, you know, I think there's people around that still wanna play tennis, even though pickleball's kinda growing. Talking to them, you know, you can't do big projects like this just to meet a small group's needs, but they really were looking for a place pretty quick and hoping to play. And so what I talked to Max about was maybe not doing, you know, I have plans to do the whole property. Maybe we don't do the whole property right now, we just work on the tennis courts and then move on to the ball field later. I'm not sure how that works. And then, you know, working on this property, it's the same thing we talked about when the park people were here. Our priority since we've started this committee is building a community center. So, you know, hopefully all this is, you know, grants usually require matches, but using some of the funds on this property might take away from what we can do with the community center. So, I don't know. But
Well, if we do tennis courts / pickleball, I would definitely like to see restrooms up there
yeah,
and water or something.
yeah,
with
it would
that.
probably just be a porta potty. Well, I have one on the property now, it's down by the ball fields, I'd probably just have to put one up there. I don't think we put public, we don't have the staff to,
And that's the hardest part with public
Yeah.
bathrooms is
Yeah.
trying to maintain it
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a pretty, so the cost of building is cost of maintaining or dealing with the headaches for not maintaining it.
It was $4
Yeah,
million for Damascotta.
Well, they're actually complaining about that right now,
Right.
the fact that they don't have anyone maintaining it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's always been kind of the concern.
porta potties aren't the nicest, but they come and clean it every week.
And the other thing is that I actually was involved with getting that money for them. The whole reason Damerscott got that money was because they saw the bathroom as something that was an economic driver for the downtown.
Yep.
That, and they were also getting money to put in seawalls and make general improvements to that parking area. We wouldn't get that type of money to install a simple little bathroom up there.
Yeah.
What are those other kind of, not porta potties, but they're compost or some kind of
Yeah, again, the issue really with all this stuff is, you know, I think the people in this room and just the community itself can come up with the idea to build it. It's just a matter of us maintaining it. Going back to the point of the tennis courts, like, they haven't really been in a usable state for a long time. And truthfully, the town hasn't always committed, you know, until they actually have a rec director, somebody that actually is, you know, looking out to make sure that doesn't happen hopefully in the future, whether it's the backstop or, yeah, you know, okay, it's gonna cost $10,000 more to refinish it compared to the 70 or 80,000 or 100,000 to tear it all up and start all over, which I think when I was talking to Mr. Beck as well, he was saying, you know, we may be able to, even though it's already been earmarked, it still could be like earmarked again for another project, because it's been 50 years or how many years since, and maybe you know more, Max, but I think he said that was possibly even, you know, an option. So even without like giving more land or more property, we could possibly start with that project. And then, you know, if we just determine we could apply for another one, you know, with this great outdoors act that was passed last year, there's a lot more money for land conservation and waters. And, you know, just from my knowledge, I know that they're always looking for good projects.
Well, and I believe the state is also getting some additional ARPA money that's gonna go towards outdoor recreation programs, separate from everything else they've done, so.
Yep.
I haven't heard what the state's gonna use with that money just yet, but I've been keeping a close eye on it because there are multiple towns that have been asking me, can we get this money to do this? And I'm just waiting with bated breath to see what the state has to announce for those funds.
Can there be walking paths put up there, so
There is a trail right now.
Yeah.
can
there is a
that be
trail.
improved and,
Yep. You probably could get some trails trails grants if you made it with, you know, different types of services and stuff, but.
Yeah.
What we talked about with the, you know, the LWCF grant, what I talked to Max about, and kind of why I talked about just doing the tennis courts instead of the whole property, was that he said he could get smaller grants to do the tennis courts as opposed to like a big LWCF one to do the whole property. Because the LWCF grants just ended in July, so they won't come around till next July. So if we're looking at doing anything in the nearish future, you know, it would be next July before they're due, you know, mid-fall before you hear back, and then probably winter before you're getting any type of funds. So we're looking at, you know, 2023 before we're getting any of that money.
Well, would it be wise for us to think of this AD Gray in 3 phases maybe? Tennis courts, pickleball first, walking trails,
Yeah,
and improvements.
elsewhere. Yeah.
Max, do you know of any grants or any funds where you could get for planning? Like somebody that could actually look at that and be able to break it up into phases, like, you know.
Yeah,
there's
there's always different types of grants for planning for these types of things, and most of the infrastructure grants also usually have a non-construction planning component to them. So that's certainly an option. And the other, I mean, if time is not an issue, the other thing is University of Maine in Orono. We just worked with them to look at some other parts of town for different civil infrastructure projects. So this is something that could be thrown in as well, where they just come in and give us a plan like that.
That sounds good.
But that's, I mean, they just went through their cycle, and I won't be able to use that until August, and then final reports won't come out until next June.
Right, sure.
But the phased ideas is certainly a good idea, and as I say, I don't mind looking at it in different phases. I guess it was more of, I know the tennis courts are something we want to get done. Is there anything else that we really want to do over there that might cost a bit of money? Because the phased idea is great, especially if we have a different source of funding, so we don't have to go through land water conservation, and instead we can just use some private money or smaller grants and just either fix up the courts or move them over and just say it's all going to be one big parcel, and hopefully that passes for muster, or not, and that we just wait a year. I guess that's what I was just hoping to get a gauge from the committee here.
Marcus, what do you think?
So, I mean, the tennis courts we've talked about, for me, that ball field needs some work. The outside fence is rough at best.
Yeah.
So it would take a lot, but not take a lot, I guess, to make that ball field a whole lot more usable than it is. It doesn't get used a lot. If we could, originally I talked about like turning it to make it a little longer in left field to get some adult use out of it. Maybe a taller fence or a net or something would be a better idea. Cutting the infield out, the infield's tight. It's like a middle school softball infield. It's our little league field is bigger cut than that. Like the grass is right behind first base. So cut that infield out 10 feet, maybe turn it a smidge. And put some real bases in. There's no real bases up there right now. And then it's kind of gravelly, so putting in like a good topsoil.
Do you need lights?
I mean, yeah, but
I'm thinking.
I'd take lights over at the ball fields before I did the 80 gray, I think. But it's
That's half the mill right there.
just kind of turning it, new fence.
This I know.
Turn it a smidge, new fence, net. I could get a whole lot more out of that. And then you're looking at the middle field. If we put the tennis courts there, fine. If not, maybe a playground. Maybe we level it out. There's some ledge in it, but if we could get parking along the road or somewhere else, people have always parked in that field to watch the games.
Right.
But it wouldn't, if we could, it's got like a driveway in it, and then the Waldeboro Day tent truck sunk in it, so there's like divots and gravel. If we kind of got, found a spot where there was no ledge and could skin it or build it up, I could get a 3-4 soccer field there as long as parents could park elsewhere. And that would, as Troy mentioned, that my 3-4 soccer field's on Bagley right now. Bagley gets used 5 days a week this time of year. We have 3 fall baseball teams, and then I have 3 or 4 soccer teams that use it. Most of the 3-4 soccer teams don't get to practice there. They practice at 80 grade. They just play their games there because I have so much fall baseball going on. And fall baseball can't really play anywhere else. Where soccer, I move them around as much as I can, and then they get their games there because that's where their field is. So, maybe that's an option.
So from a phase standpoint, you're looking at, would you do this, obviously the tennis courts, pickleball?
Yeah, tennis court.
What
first.
about the ball fields for the kids?
Yeah, I think
Meaning
that would
the
those
third-
kind of third, fourth field and
Yeah.
fixing the ball, fixing the fence and the the infield.
Could those
I
be?
think that would be kind of phase
Phase two.
Early, yeah. As far as my priorities go, the tennis courts are a liability. As
Sure.
as far as the town's concerned, I haven't put a chain up, but they're closed to the public. They're
Right, there's signage.
our insurance is
Sure.
not
What
happy.
about an ice rink? I mean, we had some discussion, an ice rink, is that something you're,
Yep. It's not something I've really thought about for 80 Gray.
Okay.
Maybe in the future, if we did fix it up and we had a playground and it turned more into a more visible park, maybe that's a great location for the ice rink. As of right now, the last time we had the ice rink there, nobody used it. It's pretty invisible. People don't know it's back there. I was hoping to do a place a little more visible.
well, if you make
Can I ask a quick,
if
can
you,
I ask a quick question?
Sure,
The ice
Max.
rink? Is, the ice rink we're talking about, is this like a permanent ice rink that the footprint and everything will be year round? Or are you talking about
No,
just a flat area you do your seasonal activity?
Yeah, it's portable. We just need a new liner for it. We have all the pieces. The only problem with the ice rink, and I'm willing to give it a go. We kind of put together a group a couple years ago, pre-COVID. I don't know how strong that group still is, but it's more than a one-man job. So if I don't have a group of people that are going to help me, I'm probably not going to put it up because
right.
that first year I did it, the select board wanted me to get it back going. I got it out there. I put a call out to citizens. I needed help lugging that line, or I couldn't
Right,
do it
right.
myself, and nobody showed up. I
So-
had to call family friends to come help me.
The question I was gonna ask was, one, could the ice rink just not be on the 80 grade, or not 80 grade, the Philbrook ball field during the winter?
It could. I try to keep it off fields that get used for organized sports, just because I don't want it to kill the grass and whatnot.
Right.
But
Right.
it could.
Yeah, I was only suggesting that one because it's not being used in the winter, so
No.
that's why I was suggesting it.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be
Yeah.
The other option is, I can check, but you could just do it at the Sylvania site.
Yep, that's something, it wasn't town-owned before, so it wasn't an option. They kind of cleared the spot out back here, for other reasons, but it had been talked about. What's really needed, kind of the biggest needs for an ice rink, winter days are short, so close to some type of lighting is nice. Somewhere near a fire hydrant would be great, because it takes 16 fire truck loads of water to fill it. So if it's near a hydrant, they can just open it and fill it in one sitting. And then it's got to be someplace that's accessible with parking that's already plowed, because we talked about putting it at the ball fields in the parking lot, but in the wintertime that's not plowed, so that would add something to Public Works already.
Yeah.
Boy, Sylvania sounds great for it.
Yeah. I don't.
So-
Are there street lights down that far? I can't remember.
No.
Yep, there are streetlights down there,
Is it? No.
and
Right,
And if there's
Max
not,
replaced them.
No, you don't
Max
come out of your
replaced them.
house.
Yep.
I used to live right across from there.
Yeah.
You do?
I did.
Oh, you do?
I guess,
Right
Max,
to
what
the
I
ball.
would say, and again, it's just would be that tennis would be probably the project the tennis courts where they are now would be working with you, the land conservation and water funds would be probably the easiest project to start or to get numbers for. And then the second you could also get numbers for is doing Philbrook Field, where you have a company like Sports Fields come in and you give them your dream wish of what you'd like that field to look like. Get some fence companies in to come and give you some different quotes. Because those are the two components. It's not a large project, but it, could, price-wise, it could crawl up there, at least at the beginning stages where you're reshaping land and moving stuff and drainage and replacing those things. And then the third part would be that middle parcel, or maybe making small improvements to the parking at the beginning, or if you were gonna break it up into 3 stages, that's probably the order I would work in. But if you found like the land conservation, it's gonna be a lot more work or a lot more money, then you switch your priority from, the tennis courts to making the improvements to the baseball field. Because I think Marcus is right, it doesn't get used because it's not a quality thing. I mean, you make the same argument of why people eventually stopped using the tennis courts, and then they got to the point they are now, like, there was big cracks, we didn't take care of them, so people stopped using them, and now they're to that point. So that would be my suggestion. I'll never be a big supporter of ice hockey rinks as much as I love them, unless you had like one of those fake plastic surfaces where you just kind of plow, because they're just so intensive for labor. It's the same thing, like, nobody there to clean it off, clear it off, and then it gets, becomes almost a liability because it's not flat and smooth ice, and hey, you have it open, well, you should put a sign up that said it was closed because it's not, and then you got somebody that's mad and upset because, but the reality is it's just the department of one, and the rest are volunteers, and you can't really expect Public Works to take on much more, or, the fire to come and water it down every day.
Right.
When they have other priorities as well. But again, that's my little spiel.
I wasn't making a pitch for it.
Yeah.
We had talked about it before,
Sure.
and there was
No,
a
yeah.
group that had been
Yeah,
here.
and,
I would certainly rather see us do some wider walking trails out there.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't think would be that expensive. And if we do pickleball and tennis, accessibility, I think I've seen some place where people use their credit cards to get access into them.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be some consideration.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go in just a minute. I didn't anticipate my bit to go on this long, actually, so.
Well, you're so popular, Max.
So, is there any quick last burning desire question before I go?
Trevor, you good?
Yeah, no, thanks, Max. All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, I appreciate you coming and talking to us, Max.
Thank you, Max.
Come back.
all right, thanks for having me. Talk to y'all later.
See ya,
Bye.
thanks. So, yeah, I think we're pretty on the same page. We'll look at tennis courts first. The one thing the group had asked, and I'd mentioned it to Julie, and I gotta talk to Peg, cause it's the insurance thing. If, like I said, they found one portion of the court that they might be able to use. I know the liability we had right now was because of the outside fence kinda not being structurally sound. If I could get Public Works up there a day to rip that out and just, letting them use with no outside fence, they just have to chase the ball a little bit. Maybe we could let them use it in the meantime until we can come up with a way to, get some new courts. But Peg's been on vacation, so I'm waiting to talk to her if that would suffice for liability or not. The rest of it is, like I said, there's grass and weeds growing up through it.
Have they thought about approaching, the athletic director at the high school?
Yeah, I know I've talked to Matt twice, and I think I gave them their number. He has no interest in putting pickleball lines on their court.
Good.
So,
Fair enough.
yeah, that's where I got with that.
Yep.
So, skipping kind of back a ways, I left something off my report I hadn't really thought about. We are getting new fences at the rec fields, on the, kind of the home run fences, so it'd be the home run fence for Sioux Fourth around to the left field pole, and then the home run fence for Bagley from center field to the left field pole. Since that place has been built, we've used mesh fences. They're removable, so I asked Kyle, I said, why did we put mesh fences in instead of putting real? And he said that if you took those down, it allowed, you could get a full-size high school soccer field in there if we ever needed it. In 15 years, we've never contemplated that one time. And those mesh fences, if you get too close with a lawnmower, get ruined real quick. And they're not cheap. They're about $1,200 to replace. And I've lost a couple of them this year, so
Who's doing the mowing?
I won't put him on camera. So
I just thought I'd ask.
So I've ordered. I got a couple quotes. We're going with Newport Fence. They put the fence, the outside fence in. They did all the fence work there. He quoted me at right around $8,700 material and
Installation.
And installation. So I mean, at $1,200 a piece for the two fences, you're looking at $2,400 for mesh, or $8,700
Right.
for real. And if I bought, I could get $2,400 for mesh, and you could run over them the next day, and
Right.
I'm right back to square one.
Right.
So it just seemed to make the most sense. to
Marcus, if
spend
we,
money.
at AD Gray, embellish that field up there, is it a field that we need? I mean, are we running out of fields? I mean, it seems to me basketball was what you were running out of, is,
Oh yeah, gym space has always been
yes.
a problem, especially now. I've had a hard time getting into schools since COVID started. But I know they've been doing, the reason I haven't been able to get in lately is they're doing a lot of construction at all the schools because they got so much grant funding to do it. So yeah, fall is always a tough time for fields, just because there are so many fall baseball teams going on that wasn't a thing, 6-7 years ago. So it's really put a strain on that. So, kind of Philbrook Ball Field as it sits now is my 5th-6 soccer field. If I were to fix the baseball portion of that, it's not really gonna help me in the fall. It might give me some more options for the spring as far as, Little League, T-ball, all that stuff, a little more usable space. And if we do it right, it's big enough that I could get some adult softball in there on some full-size fields. Could be another field for us there. So it gives me a little bit more option there. It's the middle field, with the where the parking is now. If we could get another field in there for 3-4, that would really alleviate a lot of my problems with the fall baseball, because I could put both my soccer fields at 80 Gray, and the rec fields could just stay baseball.
Well, can that be one of the phases?
That's what we talked
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Like phase 2 or 3.
The other question is, on the parking, can we look at that aspect of it when you go right by the ball field?
Yeah.
How far down can we go? And can we redesign it so that we can do parking,
I don't know.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there enough
I don't know if
land?
to do parking and another field there in the
Not
middle.
necessarily another field, but just leave that as a field in the middle
Yeah,
and create more parking down below.
yeah. It's
Right by
quite
the ball field.
Yeah, it's quite an angle there.
I know
once,
there
once you
is.
get past the, bleachers there, it's quite an angle. I've mowed it. It's
But can we
But maybe
redesign it?
Maybe I'm
You
not
know,
a,
because we're gonna,
not an
parking's still an
architect.
issue. Parking's still an issue there.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, maybe there's enough maybe there's enough room in the middle field, might have to get rid of the Waldeboro Day float or move it somewhere, but maybe there's,
Oh, they can get rid of that.
maybe there's a way to do parking on the first half,
Yeah.
clear, that back and then make that back section more into the field. I don't know, it's,
So that would be like maybe one of the things like he was talking about with the humane students or
Yeah.
whatever, like.
Sure.
get
Plan.
somebody,
They
get
want a
somebody
good plan and
smart.
then you put in somebody that's a
I can-
landscape architect and,
Yeah.
you know, put those things all together and then it's just a matter of sourcing it out and figuring out how much those things would cost.
Sure.
How many stages you actually had and how much stuff could be done in-house as far as whether it works or not.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, like if you had Newport fence here and then you said, hey, why don't you, while you're here building it, why don't you go take a look?
Take a
and
look.
Give me a quote of what
Just-
it would cost to
Yeah.
replace this, you know,
Yeah.
just different
Just for the heck
things.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can
exactly.
do
Obviously,
that.
3 years will probably be more money, but it's probably not
Yeah.
gonna go down.
Yeah, and he's retired too, and I got 2 quotes, and the other quote was, he came in at 8,700, the other quote was 19,500.
Wow.
Over double. And the Newport fence guy, he's done all the fences around here for years.
Yeah.
He's retiring, or he's like semi-retired now, so.
Okay.
I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be able to,
Tap into them.
right,
So,
so we'll
So that-
see, but
Take advantage of it while you can.
sure.
all right, any, do we wanna continue that or should we go to upcoming agenda items?
Yeah, go, I'm good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut it off.
No. Good.
So I think probably just follow up on this conversation, I guess.
And the
As
bus
far
trip.
as community center update,
Yep.
as far as the
Wetlands.
wetland DEP and that type of stuff, if there is an update.
Let me ask, is the people who were hot on the park, is that they've,
I haven't heard from him since the election.
so they've gone away?
Yeah, they kind of expressed that they're interested, it was all or nothing, so it
Right,
doesn't surprise
right, I
me.
didn't know if they came back and,
I don't think it was a bluff. But maybe, you know, maybe there's still more citizens out there that like to be involved, and obviously if they're watching or listening, then, you know, they should come forward and speak with Marcus. Maybe for the next meeting, you know, at least maybe have a preliminary conversation again with maybe Doug Beck
Yep.
about the tennis courts at least, or
Yep.
his vision, like, you know, a conversation where you say, this is the whole parcel, these are the things that are up for consideration, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Sure. Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while. Max has been kind of the one communicating.
I haven't talked to him either, but I do know that he's been involved in a project of ours over there, so.
Yep.
So the thing with the University of Maine, did I understand Max saying that he really couldn't pursue anything now?
Yeah.
Or could we, regarding
I
coming
think
down and just,
He sounded like the cycle had just ended, so it might be a year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But
okay, well, that's what I kind of,
Sounds like he's already got them committed to 1 or 2 other projects.
already.
And it's almost like the grant cycle, like you missed that one.
Yeah.
But, you know, it doesn't mean, you know, who knows, there could be other projects that fall through somewhere.
Or could we even just talk with the engineering department directly? As a, you know, a project for, you know, someone in the construction end,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Somebody that's possibly looking for a graduate
Civil,
level.
a civil, you know,
Right, a graduate level project or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, just thinking outside the
Yeah.
proverbial box.
And then probably just an update on programs, you'll be into soccer by that point. Correct.
End of soccer, or end of September, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I'll
You'll be a week or
be
two.
halfway through soccer, and co-ed softball will be about ready to wrap up. And I'll be looking at winter stuff.
Yeah, you'll have.
That's kind of a weird time of year. I almost start looking at, you know, summer at that point, because it's end of October through Christmas. There's just not a lot going on. People are doing family stuff, and that's kind of my planning time.
So
for
it's
the year.
basketball doesn't
So,
start.
yeah,
till-
I mean, basketball starts.
but-
So I run K2 basketball, and that's usually starts in January.
Okay,
So the
So-
third through sixth, they start, but that's all run through Madomic Youth Basketball. I don't, outside of talking to them about gym space, I don't have a whole lot to do with it.
okay.
And know, they haven't really talked to me much about it. I know Kyle used to say they used to want him to take it over, and he'd say, sure, but I'm taking the registration money, and that was the end of the talks, because that's one of their big fundraisers. So,
Yeah,
So-
well,
so usually, we'll start, January kind of kicks things back off. We get ski club up and going, and basketball, and then before you know it, I usually run a tournament or two, and then Little Leagues. Little League is always ready to get going. But yeah, that usually November, December is kind of slow. We used to run like a tumbling class around then, try to
Yep.
keep something going, and we'll have pickleball going hopefully throughout so that'll be going. But
If we do tennis courts at AD Gray, tennis, could we consider asking for lights?
there are already lights there a little bit. There's some in the park. If it stays where it is, there's 2 lights coming off the parking lot that are angled towards the courts.
But if we enlarge it to pickleball things, I think that would be
There's a possibility.
something, yeah.
You just, when you start getting lights, then you get some community members, how late can they stay on? And
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
it's gonna
Shining in my
bother me.
house.
Shining in my
Shining.
house.
There is a house.
Trying to go to bed,
I'm trying to go to
kid.
bed.
Yeah.
It's 6:30.
Yeah. 6:45, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
It would increase field usage time. Yeah, and end of soccer season, we get another practice.
Yeah, like I said, if maybe you get a deal putting a lot of lights in, but if I had first priority on lights, it's probably soccer. I'd say the rec fields, but actually it's the fall that it becomes. I can get 2 practices a night in the spring. In the fall, I can only get 1. It's dark, so
Sure.
depending on where my soccer fields are.
Yeah.
But also, if slow pitch softball's our numbers are up, but statewide it's kind of a dying sport. But I know that the towns that have had success, they have fields that have lights, because you can draw,
Right.
you can promise, hey, your team's coming from Lewiston, we can get you 2 games a night
Yeah, yeah.
if you come, but
Mhm.
if you don't have the lights and
Yeah.
they're not gonna drive from
No.
Lewiston or Augusta or wherever from,
game.
an hour drive, and then an
I don't
hour
drive
game,
from
and
my
then an hour
house.
drive back. It's,
Too bad we
yeah. So,
isn't kind of a thing.
Mark, did you say softball numbers are down throughout the state?
yeah.
Throughout the state.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
When I was big into it for a while. I've kind of been out of the last couple of years, but when I was like 22 or so, I played
So that was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
almost 10.
Goodness.
I played in a D States tournament with like 50 teams.
Yeah.
And,
I've seen that, yeah.
And 3 years ago, we went to E States with my men's team from Rockland, and it was 25.
Wow, that much of a,
Yeah, 20,
Yeah.
25, 30 teams.
Adult sports in general have decreased from, adult basketball to adult, pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I think some of it's just guys getting enough guys to front the money and different things like that. And it's probably like when you were saying like it's $30 per player, like then you collect the money. It's not the actual captain that's on the hook for the $600 or $400.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't stick their heads out, their necks out to put that all together. So I think that's harder. But yeah, in general, I had a conversation about that today. Like, just adult sports are just down from all the different sports.
Yep.
But
All right, so have we decided on a date in September?
4th Wednesday, is that gonna work for you still?
yeah, I mean, obviously, people listening obviously may have heard or may not know that I've taken a new position. So hopefully that commitment will allow me to still hold this commitment. So, but time will tell. But I'd say let's just still shoot for that Wednesday, that last Wednesday.
22nd?
Is that what it is? The fourth
The
Wednesday?
fourth one, right?
The fourth Wednesday, yep.
Yeah.
It's my 21st birthday.
And if something changes on my end, then we'll have that
You
conversation.
believe that? I got some land to sell you.
I forgot my boots right.
Yeah.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. All right, everyone, thank you, that's it.
Okay.
And we'll see you in September.
That's a wrap.
See you in September.
Maybe they need to create a beer league.
A beer league would go over big. You know that.